Hey guys, and welcome back to NTom and Volk's Spot of PC. Today, it's time for one of Volk's favourite games. This is Warcraft III, Reign of Chaos, a high-fantasy real-time strategy video game developed and published by Blizzard Entertainment. It was released in July of 2002. It's the second sequel to Warcraft Orcs and Humans, and it is the third game set in the Warcraft fictional universe. Thank you, Wikipedia.
There is a lot to say on that wiki, so I'm very impressed you managed to get that done. But this game, man.
This fucking game.
I couldn't possibly quantify the amount of hours I spent playing this, mostly online, but I just spent so much time playing through this because the RTS elements in this game are absolutely stellar.
Yeah, I think we're all aware of Volk's love of the RTS genre at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Command & Conquer Red Alert is still very, very good, but Warcraft 3 just has so much going for it, and so many different mechanics that work really well with each other. It's just such a fun and fulfilling experience, even today.
Are you still playing Warcraft, speaking of the current day?
Every now and again I pop in there to see what custom maps are still going on, but recently I've kind of been distracted by RPGs by the dozens.
Okay. Alright, mate. Talk a little bit about Warcraft 3. We've got a lot to cover here.
So I can go through the story of Warcraft 3 whilst the relevant cutscenes are playing to kind of set the tone. The story of Warcraft 3. It starts off with a small tutorial level to kind of teach you the basics of the game.
Okay.
And story-wise, it's Thrall who wakes up from a nightmare.
Aww.
But it turns out the nightmare was a vision given to him by a prophet to warn him of the Burning Legion, who are basically demons, that they have returned and they're going to enslave the orcs again, essentially.
Yeah, can't you just tell me these things while I'm awake? You know, what have you got against a good night's sleep?
Well, you know, these fantasy types, they like to be all cryptic.
Oh, it's a cryptic metaphor. Fuck off, I'm trying to nap.
Obviously, Thrall does not like the idea of the Burning Legion being back, especially with what you did to the orcs the last time. So he goes off to retreat to the forgotten land of Kalimdor, which is where the Night Elves live.
Okay.
So not really forgotten, just very unfrequently visited. It's not really the best tourist destination. The elves are very, very fussy.
Dude, the CGI though.
I know. This, as far as Blizzard goes, they've made incredible RTS games, not just in terms of mechanics, but in terms of story. It's just so heavily lore and story driven that you really immerse yourself into the game as you are playing it. It's not like those games where, like in Red Alert, oh, here are some bad guys, go kill them because they have nuclear missile bomb. There's like actual story, and there's various factions warring between each other for different reasons that all get visited at certain points in the overall game's story. It's amazing. And you really, really get involved, and you really feel like you're actually in there.
And it looks pretty too.
Oh, it looks very pretty. If there's one thing that Blizzard knows, it's its CGI cutscenes.
Okay, the biggest question of all, Volk. Did you go and see the live-action Warcraft movie?
You know what? I haven't yet, and that's only because I want to kind of see it on DVD, just in case there's like cutscenes or anything like that. I kind of want to see it in full with all the extras thrown in there as well, so I can get a hang of what they were going for. But from what I hear, it's a fairly mixed bag, but it has some really good points. Like, many people praised how well the orcs were characterized.
You guys seeing this raven in my court right here? Why is no one taking it out? It's dinner time already.
He doesn't seem to really notice it himself, or he's just flat out ignoring it. But that is no raven. That is indeed the prophet. And you get this really nice little transformation scene. Look at my badass cape. It's not revealed until later on in the game, but this character right here is actually Medivh, who was a center figure in the very first Warcraft game, as being the betrayer, because he was the one who let the orcs into the world in the first place. So yeah, he's trying to atone for his past sins, so he's trying to warn everybody about the return of the Burning Legion and that they must be stopped.
Dude, just turn back into a bird and fly away.
But he has to tell the humans that the Burning Legion is back and that the world is going to end. But of course,
God.
The humans aren't buying it because they're arrogant shittards.
Oh, that voice sounds so familiar, but I can't place it.
It sounds like a generic Final Fantasy King voice to me, honestly.
Alright, well don't say I didn't warn you.
Ah, so badass.
You cannot take up this cup, and I shall find another who will.
It's talking about you, isn't he, the player?
No, you don't really have a role in this game as the player. You're more controlling all the different factions throughout the story as it develops. So you start controlling the humans, then you got like the night elves, then the orcs, and then eventually the undead.
Oh, okay. Is it like separate campaigns, or is it all like weaved into one?
They're separate campaigns, but they interlink with each other. It's kind of like one continuing story where after the events of one faction, you kind of pick it up through a different faction.
Okay.
And you kind of either play through their side of the story or something that happens directly after. So this is the human faction side of the story, or the start of. And this is the legendary Prince Arthas, who you may have heard of, potentially.
No, but I'm a massive Warcraft pleb.
That is fair enough. Arthas is a paladin and the Prince of Lordaeron, and is here to help defend Stranbrad from the demon-controlled orcs, which Medieval's warning for all about. Which later on turns into a bit of a different investigation. Basically, the undead are rising and we have to stop them as well. But that comes a little bit later. But Arthas' story is a very interesting one, and it's a great story of inner conflict. You know, the whole thing of, you're a paladin, you must uphold the life and the light and all that is sacred. And sometimes you feel like there's no justice. So obviously you're thinking, oh, why don't we just kill these fuckers for doing all these nasty things? It's just like, no, we are paladins, we can't do that.
Dude, is he wielding a massive warhammer?
Oh yes, he is.
Nice.
He upgrades it to a sword later on, but of course the sword is cursed. So you control Arthas through this story for the most part, but you also get to control some of the other human characters like Jaina Proudmoore, who is a mage and one of Arthas' friends. There's a dwarf called Mirrodin Bronzebeard, who you meet up with later on as you go to quest for said cursed sword. And there's a bunch of other characters that are kind of thrown in there and have minor roles, but are obviously figures of great importance. So as you go through, you're kind of dealing with this orc problem, and then the undead start coming along, and
It never ends.
it starts wearing thin on old Arthas. He slowly starts to become more and more insane. So he's like, okay, I'm not taking any more shit, I'm just going to kill everything and everyone in order to accomplish my goals or for what I think is right.
Yeah, you better run.
I like how the NPC's apparently still talking to me, I'm already well far and away past the hills. It's just like, alright, please save my thing, and he's gone.
I don't think I've watched or seen much Warcraft gameplay footage at all. I would say, kind of, sadly, my biggest experience is with the South Park episode.
Make Love, Not Warcraft. Arguably one of the best South Park episodes ever made.
Is it faithful to Warcraft, would you say?
It is fairly faithful, yes. There are a couple of odd things here and there that they either got wrong or didn't quite get right. But
yeah, they took liberties.
they're very minor things that aren't worth nitpicking, let's just say that.
But my main point of that whole spiel was basically the whole like running animations and like just animation style in general is a lot more cartoony than I was expecting. I was honestly expecting something more akin to like, you know, Command and Conquer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of like where they were with 3D at that point, and it seemed like this kind of style worked out a little bit better in terms of putting it out there. I think it does kind of work. It's an interesting style, it lends itself well. Whether or not it's aged well is kind of up to interpretation, but back then it was very serviceable, and
It looks great to me now.
oh yeah, I mean, it's very colourful, it's vibrant, and it plays into the whole fantasy element very, very well, I feel. Well, one reason why Arthas is such a prominent figure is because the cursed sword that I was talking about earlier was actually made by this all-encompassing evil known as the Lich King.
Ooh, yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, so Arthas is essentially the Lich King.
Ah.
The sword eventually just consumes him to the point where he becomes a Death Knight, and then he goes and finds the Lich King himself, takes up his helmet, puts it on his head, and then he and the Lich King become one. So it's a true fall from grace story. He starts off as devout paladin, then slowly succumbs to his sanity to become an undead warrior, and then takes up the power of arguably one of the most powerful entities in the known universe. It's a really, really great way to slowly see him get corrupted.
Man, these orcs aren't very smart. There's a guy hitting you with a hammer from behind, you don't even turn around to see who's doing it.
Well, some of these orcs, particularly the grunts and the peons, aren't exactly known for their smarts. I'll say that much now.
Whoa, that's rad.
This is one of the nice things about Warcraft, that even when you're going through like the main game, everything is kind of still cinematic. There are like various queues and such that come by, and you sort of have guys like wandering in and just exploding villages or buildings being set on fire. And it's a really nice way to kind of blend in the cinematic with the actual gameplay. But of course, the human campaign is not the only way you can go. You can follow through the orcs as they try to find their ways into Kalimdor. And you get to play as the Undead as you go through Arthas' stint as a Death Knight.
Sorry, I was just looking at the sheep icon. What a grumpy looking sheep. No wonder you just blew the fuck out of everyone.
Yep, if there's a well-known fun thing about this game where if you click on critters enough, or indeed your actual characters, they have different dialogue. So they have like various just fun quotes and things like that. And critters, they just explode if you keep poking them.
Sure, why not?
So yeah, there's a lot of references in this game if you're willing to just keep clicking on characters. So like, obviously the humans have a fair share of Monty Python references, for instance. But of course the orcs have like the whole, "Quit poking me" thing. It's like, ooh, that was pretty nice. It's all good fun. This is a game that, whilst there is a very serious story being told, under the surface there are just all these really cool little fun things that Blizzard just kind of threw in there for a little bit of extra flavour. And I can immensely appreciate that. Blizzard have, in general, a very, very good sense of humour.
So we're trying to free the town here from the orcs.
Yep. While trying, of course, they're doing a very, very good job of both pillaging and killing the villagers, unfortunately.
Damn, man, you raze that house to the ground without killing the people inside it.
That's amazing. I'm not sure whether to give more credit to the orcs or the civilians that seem to have iron heads to avoid rubble being felled upon them. I can tell you a little bit about how the game actually works, because, of course, on the surface, it is a traditional RTS game. You build various different units who have certain strengths and weaknesses, and you also have what makes this game unique, which are the hero characters like Arthas here. And heroes work a little bit differently. They are immensely powerful, for one. For two, they get all sorts of different skills and abilities that they learn throughout the course of the game. And they also level up. So a lot of the time when you're playing through like a Warcraft III skirmish, for instance, a lot of your focus will end up being just as much around the hero that you choose as it is about the kind of units that you build. Because obviously sometimes there are some heroes that are good at other things, and then you got these other heroes here that are good at different things. So you got mages, you got paladins who can heal, you got melee combatants who can like get vampirism effects that account for the whole team. So there's all sorts of really nice things, and you can kind of mix and match your compositions around them and come up with some really effective combinations. So like right here, the Paladin, I have a healing spell, which obviously keeps my footman here nice and healthy. But I also have an aura that actually increases the defense of all the units within a certain radius.
So you stay close to your men, and it has the maximum effectiveness that way.
Exactly. They're taking less damage, which means you're healing them less frequently, which puts a lot less strain on your mana.
What the fuck?
Yeah, the lift movements are not quite... they're not quite that great, but it's entertaining, to say the least.
Well, not just the lip movements, everything about the child.
He hit every branch of the ugly tree and then went back for seconds.
Damn.
Never a dull moment. Let's get moving.
And away we go.
To the next plight, which is more orcs, or rather we found the orc encampment, and now we're going over there to help out Uther and drive the orcs back, or stop whatever the hell it is that they are doing. Because of course, the orcs are being taken over by the Burning Legion, so all of the orcs that you meet up in the human side of the story are actually affiliated with the Burning Legion. They're not with Thrall's lot, who are kind of the good guys, but are kind of seen as the evil, because, you know, they're orcs, and people are narrow-minded.
Well, I was actually going to bring that up. Are orcs, like, fully chaotic evil in the Warcraft world like they are in Lord of the Rings?
No, definitely not. I mean, there are obviously good orcs, but obviously the orcs have a bit of a bad rep. I mean, they were seen as pretty much bloodthirsty killers in the first Warcraft game, and I believe the second one as well. And it's in the third one where they start building up the new horde, wherein all of the bloodthirsty orcs and such have either been killed off or have been taken over by the Burning Legion. And then there are those who've kind of clinged on to sanity or just not wanting to be demon-possessed, basically. And they're trying to come up with a new horde, which is one that's not quite as bloodthirsty and kind of wants to put themselves in the world as not horrible killers. But of course, humans aren't very quick to forgive.
Not really, no, especially when they have gigantic hammers.
Exactly. Hammers the size of your head for maximum splatter.
Seriously, what's your favourite type of, like, super-duper weapon? Is it a sword? Is it like a mace, a hammer? What's the dealio?
Gunblade.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy VIII.
Well, I was expecting a less weeby answer, but since it's you, and this is half your show, I'll let you have it.
Thank you. Thank you. So, of course, the peasants have all of the Monty Python quotes. Help! Help! I'm being repressed! But yeah, this game is amazing. So now we get into the base building aspect of the game. Now, obviously, when you're playing through a skirmish game, you'll have access to all the cool tech. So, as opposed to, like, footmen, you can also make things like riflemen, hippogriffs, hammer-wielding griffin riders,
Nice!
even. And then you got, like, mages as well. You can have, like, your priests and your sorceresses, who can turn opponents into sheep. And you got, like, gyrocopters and siege tanks. There's all sorts of, like, really, really cool units you can actually build here. But what I wanted to do here was give a taste of what I believe the main meat of the game is, which is the story. And, of course, blowing up sheep.
Of course.
Because their existence offends me.
Jesus, they go off like a nuke.
It's pretty impressive, isn't it? It leaves a very satisfying stain.
I've been meaning to ask about the UI. How, like, smooth is it to use? Do you find it very intuitive?
Oh yeah, it's very, very intuitive, I think. Like, it seems like there's a lot there, but of course, mastery over the hotkeys will help with this immensely. But everything is kind of put in the right place, I reckon. There's nothing out of turn, or there's nothing too much in one place going on. It's all very nice and clean. And that is one of the main reasons why I think this game is as fun as it is, because it's easy to access.
Sorry, I like I said, I wasn't expecting it to be this cartoony, so just the sight of two people on either side of an orc smashing it with hammers is really funny.
You can just picture in the background. The cartoony style lends itself well into making what would otherwise be very serious moments into oddly hilarious ones.
It's really endearing, actually.
It is. It's got a very good sense of charm to it, and of course, the lore giving you like the more serious side, it kind of gives you a nice balance. Whilst we go about base building, another thing I should probably mention is the resources. Now, in the Command & Conquer games, you had a single resource, which is credits. And this game uses what is now considered to be, I think, a fairly popular way of doing resources, where you have a primary resource, a secondary resource, and an upkeep resource. So you got your gold, which is obviously one of your main forms of currency. You plunder gold mines and defeat rogue camps and things like that to get money. And you use that to buy pretty much everything, but it can also be the main thing to buy some of your basic soldiers, like your footmen. Now, some buildings in particular, well, most buildings, and some units actually require a lumber cost as well. So those would be some of your more powerful units. So there'll be some units that require a very substantial sum of lumber, for instance. And you have to build lumber mills and the likes, and you have to set your workers to cut down trees and such in order to acquire it.
You know what I'm getting a real hankering to play?
What's that then?
Age of Empires.
Oh yeah, that actually had a 4 resource system if I remember correctly.
Oh, nice. Which one do you think we should play if we ever bring it to Spot of PC? 2 is the obvious choice.
I would say we could play Age of Empires 2 HD, because I reckon that would be a good one to cover.
Neat.
But the third resource is also your upkeep. And I think I mentioned this briefly in my Command & Conquer video, wherein there's no limit to Command & Conquer games to how many units you can build, whereas here and in StarCraft, which is Warcraft's sister game, so to speak, you do actually have a limited number of units you can build, and how much upkeep they cost depends on the individual unit. So your footmen and such will be maybe 2 food each. But then you'll have like your siege tanks and things like that, and they'll cost like 5, 6, maybe even 8 food just to bring out. So there's a real sense of managing your units and trying to build around what you're up against as opposed to just building a shit ton of one thing and then just sending it all in.
Here we are. Progress.
Yep, I kind of skipped ahead a bit because it was literally just me building footmen, and I kind of want to spare you from that.
Fair enough.
Now we've established our base, we've got some footmen. We're going to need to take these guys out and see what the hell's going on around here.
We'll show these orcs that human dick is bigger and betterer.
The warlocks of the Black Rock clan have spoken. Soon, demons will rain from the sky, and this wretched world will burn.
Kill him. Kill him now.
Ufra is approximately this tired of your shit.
It was only a mirror image. Damn it. What are these curs up to?
Doing orky things like usual.
Human sacrifices, you know, just the normal thing.
Jesus, what is going on here?
Obviously, these guys are being possessed by the demons, or are just devouts, I guess. They may just be doing it under their own whim because they believe the demons are the stronger force.
I like how it's classified as unlucky footman.
Slay the orcs.
It's not wrong, I guess.
Nah, not really. Obviously, it's not very nice, but, you know.
I'm here to help.
So yeah, the orcs, in this case, are trying to bring forth more demons into this world and just generally start stirring shit.
Ugh.
And Medivh is trying to, throughout the course of the story, join up the orcs, the humans, and the night elves together to fight back the Burning Legion and to defeat the Lord of the Legion, who is Archimonde. And you don't really see much of him until much later on. You have to kind of go through and swath your way through a bunch of cronies before you can get to the big cheese.
Oh, of course.
The whole game kind of just plays around like all these factions kind of meeting up with each other in differing circumstances and kind of developing the characters as you go along. So obviously Arthas has his fall from grace. You have Jaina, who eventually finds her way to Thrall and, unlike most humans, actually is somewhat understanding towards Thrall and actually seeks out to help him. And is a very major stepping stone in getting the orcs and the humans to kind of join up in the first place. And now the orcs are in Kalimdor trying to establish a base of operation for themselves, but the problem is they're kind of cutting down trees, and the night elves kind of like their trees. So obviously they're not very happy about the orcs being there to begin with, but then they realise the Burning Legion's coming along and that they have to stop them as well. So there's a lot going on at once, but it all kind of links to the central point that the Burning Legion is here, we kind of have to stop them.
The light is my strength.
It really is.
Justice shall be done.
There is a lot of flavour to this game, and I could pretty much go through an entire playthrough of this game, honestly.
Like the longest spot of PC episode to date.
8 hours long.
Oh, Jesus.
It'll probably take a little bit longer than that, honestly. But yeah, there's a lot of appeal with this game. Obviously, the campaign is very involved, there's a lot of lore, and just generally lots of fun stuff that you can do. But one of the reasons why I personally enjoyed the game as much as I did was being able to do all of the online stuff.
Oh, here we go.
So, obviously you can go online and do skirmishes with other people, but you've also got custom games, which are where people come together to play edited maps that other people have come up with. And during the course of the game's lifespan, there have been shit tons of amazing custom maps, some of which change the way the game works entirely. It's not just, oh, I've made this custom map for us to just go down and beat people around the head on. It's more of a case of, hey, I really like this game, and I just made a custom map which basically makes Warcraft III a tower defense.
Ooh.
Come by and have a look. So you had stuff at the beginnings, you had a bunch of tower defense game, you had like Line Tower Wars, you had Winter Mall, and then you had other maps as well, like there was a Footman Wars map, where basically you get like a few barracks and you have to build up a whole bunch of basic units and upgrade them throughout the course of the game, and basically take out the opponent's base on the other side of the map. And then you had like, eventually they got into doing stuff like open RPGs. They made a version of Mario Party in Warcraft called Ufa Party.
I want to see that. I want to see that right now.
Unfortunately, I couldn't find somebody playing it because
Aww.
obviously Ufa Party requires multiple people. And whilst I was looking around online to see what was going on, I couldn't see anybody playing Ufa Party, unfortunately. But it's really, really fun. It's exactly what you think it is. It's like a series of Warcraft-themed mini-games, like
Nice.
Guide the Critter Through This Maze, or Don't Get Caught by This Net, or
Man,
something like that.
the PC modding community always, like, makes me smile with their ingenuity and creativity.
Well, Blizzard have always been very much on the ball with that sort of thing, and their actual world creation editing stuff was very much involved. They literally gave you everything you can possibly need. You could edit down individual units to the point where you can change their name, their behavior. You could even change what they look like if you were a dab hand of kind of applying different skins to these things. You could even change like all the attack animations. You can like create your own spells, your own heroes. There's just all sorts of ridiculous stuff you could do on that thing. You could even add your own music if you really wanted to. You could add your own command prompts. You could add like your own cinematic events like in here, so you can effectively create a custom campaign if you wanted to.
I don't know, Uther.
It's just mind-boggling just the amount of stuff you can do, and even more so when you actually go in and see what people have come up with. And one of the most famous of which is, I think I can't actually go through a Warcraft commentary without mentioning Defense of the Ancients, which was a game mode created within Warcraft 3 that became so popular that eventually it became a standalone game known as Dota 2, which came out in July 2013.
Now, Dota 2 I've heard of.
Valve actually bought the rights to Defense of the Ancients and said, we want to make a sequel. And that's exactly what they did. Obviously, since the Dota heroes that were in there were kind of owned by Blizzard, they kind of had to edit around it a little bit. But
Yeah.
apart from that, they did a really, really good job in keeping the Dota feel intact. So yeah, eventually Dota would go on to spawn similar games like League of Legends and Smite. So yeah, you could say that Warcraft 3 had a hand in creating almost an entirely new genre. And it wasn't even the Warcraft game itself that did it, it was just somebody who took the world customization to and just created something that just stuck so well within the community.
That's amazing.
It really is. Just having like open RPGs and things like that as well is just amazing. I remember playing a Final Fantasy themed open RPG where you could collect materia around the map and you could like cast all these different spells. Like you could cast Meteor on people and somebody literally edited a spell which made a slow falling meteor come down from the sky and just leave a massive crater at the end. It was fantastic stuff. And it even made like a save feature as well, like you could write down a code and then you could just load up your character whenever you want.
So who are we dealing with now? These guys don't really seem all that humanish.
Well, these are the mages. They are technically of the human faction, but they kind of have like their own city called Dalaran.
Okay.
And they kind of deal with all things arcane, and Jaina Prowlmore is one of the main characters within Warcraft, in general, I would say, and is one of Arthas's closest friends. So she kind of comes along to help figure out what the hell's going on with the orcs and eventually the undead. And obviously, eventually she goes to meet up with Thrall and such, and she plays an integral part in kind of getting the human-orc relations started. Even though they don't usually end all that well, she still did a good job. I mean, she got a few people to see sense at the very least, which was more than previously, which was none.
Oh my god, she has a stand!
That's a water elemental. It's not a stand.
Yes, it is.
Alright, it's a stand.
I call it Beach Boys.
Oh god.
Oh, I think that's already a stand.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it is. I would not be surprised if it was.
Well, I guess we should get underway.
So this is where we start getting our first taste of the plague, which is turning all these humans into the undead. Which obviously is not very good. I mean, if there's one thing you don't want to be, it's undead. I mean, the pay's lousy, the food's not very palatable at the best of times.
Man, you just get the worst references after each job. He just shuffles around, moans a bit, doesn't really do the tasks we've assigned him.
Although I have to admit, they have been getting a bit of a better rep with things like The Walking Dead, where they're no longer just the helplessly shuffling types.
Oh yeah.
They can like break into full-on sprints and things like that, so, you know, I think the modern zombie has it a lot better than the, like, oldie-style horror movie zombie.
I think both types can be really terrifying.
But I mean, the undead is more than just a few shambling zombies and ghouls. They do things like spiders and gargoyles and
Jesus.
all sorts of fun stuff, like abominations, which is literally just an undead monstrosity stitched together from several human bodies.
The last thing I want to hear is undead spider. Like, you crush it and it just, like, comes back to life.
There is
Oh no, but these are like man-sized spiders.
Oh no!
That's even worse. There is no hammer big enough to squash one of those in one go.
Well, that's nice, because I literally just saw a tiny little millipede clawing its way up my curtains, and now I'm a little bit on edge.
It'll put you in the right mood for taking on the Undead Scourge.
Okay.
There's actually a very interesting story that develops with the Undead as well. There are obviously some people who get turned pretty much against their own will, but are so powerful that they kind of retain a lot of their memories and powers and all that sort of thing. And one of the most famous for this is a lass called Sylvanas Windrunner, who was a high elf. But unfortunately she got betrayed and left to the clutches of the Undead and got brought back as an Undead Ranger. Now of course she doesn't really like the Scourge, because as a high elf she really despises the Undead. So being part of the Undead wasn't really something that she approved of.
Nah.
So eventually she went on to make her own splinter faction called the Forsaken, which are basically Undead who don't really like the Scourge very much, but then again don't really like anybody else either. So there's a whole story that develops there as well, and it's fleshed out a little bit more in like the Frozen Throne as well, which is an expansion to Warcraft III.
You stop there.
No, it's too fun.
Jesus Christ.
I wanted to go with a theme, I just thought, alright, I've done it twice now, I may as well do it for this one too.
Drinking a potion in Great Arena and carry on.
Just take your green shit and get out of my sight. Stop blowing up our sheep. We kinda need them.
There's an ancient fountain shrine nearby. Legends say that its holy waters can restore health and heal.
Well, yeah, you weren't kidding about that lip sync.
That could prove to be
It wasn't quite the time where you could really get that shit down pat with a game as big and involved as Warcraft. They eventually did get it to that point when StarCraft 2 came out, though. Like, StarCraft 2 is a lot better in terms of graphics, as you would probably expect, I would say. Which is kind of why I want them to release a Warcraft 4. Like, a proper RTS Warcraft, like, in the same way that they did StarCraft 2, because I think that shit would be amazing.
Well, you know, there's all these, like, retro revivals coming out, like Doom and Quake, so who knows?
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe Blizzard will do so. Then again, I think they're going to be parlaying with Overwatch for a little bit before they start thinking about that sort of thing.
I still need to play, though.
It is incredibly solid. I mean, just in terms of its presentation, and all the characters are likable.
I'm gonna probably get it on a PS4, because I'm angling to get a PS4 for Christmas.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, Helldragon will be happy for that, that's for sure.
Hell yeah.
You could be Overwatch buddies.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I would love for them to make a Warcraft 4, but also in the same way I would like them to release another Diablo and all that sort of jazz. Diablo 3 is good, but I think it's starting to show its age a little bit, so I think it's time for a new one. Release a Diablo 4 and a Warcraft 4, and I'll be a happy camper.
a sound plan.
So here we go. We're not quite reached the Undead yet. We've kind of got all these rogues and murlocs and such to go through.
Mate, if I saw like a friggin' water golem coming towards me and a dude with a fuck-off giant warhammer like tailing him, I would be running in the opposite direction. I wouldn't be staying to fight.
Yeah, but where would they go? There's ocean above them and a dead end to the side of them. The only way out is through.
Give up. Attempt to parlay.
Attempt to flee. So here we go. The mage's abilities are obviously a little bit different. So obviously she can summon water elementals to help her out. She's got a spell called Blizzard, which cools down ice from the sky to deal area of effect damage. And she's also got an aura which actually replenishes the mana of nearby allies.
Nice.
So she's very much the person you want to go for if you want to have boatloads of mana. Just concentrate on putting up your auras, maybe have Blizzard or Water Elemental to supplement, and you're pretty much away.
So are the undead weak to any kind of specific magics?
Not particularly. It's more that the units in this game have various strengths and weaknesses in terms of their weaponry. So like you'll have normal weaponry, which does well against normal armor, but against heavier or fortified armor, they'll start to see reductions. But then to counteract those armors, like heavy armor is vulnerable to piercing, so archers and rifles and things like that will blow that armor away pretty damn effectively.
Okay.
And then you got like chaos armor as well, which basically does solid defense against anything, and also chaos attacks, which basically go through any armor. So there's lots of different like attack and defense which can be effective depending on sort of what you're up against. So there's all that to consider as well. It's not quite an element system like you would expect, but it's close enough too.
Well, it says Arthas may use the Holy Light spell to damage the undead, so are they...
Oh yeah, that's indeed true. The undead actually have something similar called Death Coil, which can actually do damage to human units as well.
Okay.
So yeah, if they're undead, you can actually do damage with Holy Light if you want to, but I was focusing on healing.
Okay, I was going to say, because it's like, you would expect that type of weakness for the undead.
Yeah, you pretty much would, although it's not in the same sense that you would think, like there are specific spells that would do that sort of thing, rather than just a broad spectrum of vulnerability.
It's like in Final Fantasy, at least in FF10 from what I recall, you can kill one of the undead bosses by chucking a couple of Phoenix Downs at it.
Yeah, the final boss in particular, I remember. He was actually weak to zombies, so you could actually zombify the final boss and then throw a Phoenix Down at it and kill the final boss of the game instantly. It's just the most anticlimactic thing I ever witnessed. It was so bad, but the rest of the game was good, so I could forgive it for that. So here we go. Some of these maps get pretty big and involved later on.
Man, this fucking war ain't no joke.
Yeah, definitely not. And like, it's not all just outdoorsy stuff either. Like, sometimes you'll go into like temples and things like that, and the whole place will sort of take place in a building.
Nice.
Or a crypt or something similar to that.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've been mostly outdoors for this mission.
Well, Lordaeron is fairly green. Like, Kalimdor in particular as well kind of falls under that as well. But as you start getting to like the undead stuff, you'll start to see more of those crypts and such, and there'll be like levels that consist of beaches and like ruins and underwatery type stuff. There's all sorts of different like set pieces that you can traverse through, although you don't really see those until a little bit later on, since the majority of the first steps of the game take place in pretty much a similar area. So here we go. Apparently the granary has been tainted, so we must destroy them before more people start eating moldy bread that turns them into the undead. Unintentional rhyming, how about that? I thought, there's probably nothing in these crates except that skeleton, I suppose. But I figured I'd destroy those anyway, just in case.
Why not?
I mean, if it's there, you gotta take the opportunity.
Ah, don't kill me, I'm dead.
For my father, the king.
We're killing that guy just because that was not called for. So, yeah, now we're finding necromancers, which are kind of the undead's answer to, like, the spell class casters. So they can resurrect dead bodies and turn them into skeletons to fight for you. There was actually a particular strategy that I was particularly reliant upon, where I just build a whole bunch of necromancers and meat wagons, load up the meat wagons with corpses, and then as I'm bombarding the enemy base, just dump all the corpses on the ground and let the necromancers resurrect them all to skeletons to kind of provide the frontline defense.
Foul knave.
That was some fun times.
For my father, the king. I'm here to help.
You asked for it.
Ah, the wonderful carnage. It's fun to watch.
I'll take care of it.
It really is, and I mean, as you go through later on, you come across bigger and badder enemies as well.
Thank you for not saying badder.
Badderer. They're bad wrong, or badong.
Yes, Warcraft 3 is badong.
But it feels so gnardab.
Fucking love that film.
All I have
I know, it is so good.
the currents of magic.
So I actually tried clicking on the main characters in this game, and they don't have nearly as funny things to say as the generic rabble.
Yeah, and they don't blow up either, which is a real shame.
Can you just imagine just if Warcraft 3 ended by somebody clicking on Arthas too much and he just blew up for no reason?
Yeah, and, like, the devs didn't even announce that that was a thing.
Just like, wow, it's really that easy?
Oh my god, can you imagine if someone was in the final boss and they did that?
It's just like, what's this cursor doing here? No, knock it off! It's my only weakness! Boom!
Game over.
Light may be evident there as well.
We'll check it out.
So now we've encountered some priests who do a little bit of healing on the side for us. Not nearly as immense as Holy Light, but it's well one of those kind of heal over time effects, I guess. You kind of stick it on auto cast that has a low mana cost and they just keep casting it on anything that needs it. But they can also dispel, so dispelling works for like getting rid of buffs, but it can also do a massive amount of damage to summoned enemies. So if you see a necromancer summoning a bunch of skeletons, if you use dispel magic on it, you'll probably kill them in one hit.
Wait, we're talking about that spell or this spell?
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Just crawling with them.
Well, I could use your help. We've got a warehouse to destroy at the
There are some mysterious dwarves who are firing mortars at skeletons. Obviously the most effective of means for destroying the undead.
Yeah, that's what I think when I see a skeleton fucking mortar it into the ground.
And of course, they got some interesting things to say as well.
I'm TNT. I'm Dynamite. We must defeat the dwarves.
Jesus Christ, I can't stop looking at that icon. Looks like they're gonna set down the most fire rap album this year.
They actually have some of my favorite quotes. It's just, we must defeat the dwarves! Ugh, we are the dwarves!
Oh, Jesus. No, the other less cool dwarves.
As opposed to the otherwise less cool orcs that are summoning demons.
Oh, yeah.
You do get a couple of different factions of dwarfs as well, actually. You joke about it, but you do actually get that as well. You got Dark Iron dwarves, who are essentially evil dwarfs.
Okay, Volk, we're coming to the end of this video. We've got a couple of minutes left. Warcraft 3. Summarise your thoughts, please.
It's just an incredibly solid game with an even more solid community. Just the amount of custom maps that I've been able to play through throughout the time that I spent playing this game has been... It's been one of the centerpieces of what was a great time of gaming for me. Just playing through Warcraft 3, StarCraft, Red Alert 2... All that sort of thing just made up such a fantastic time to be a PC gamer for me. And just being able to witness an RTS have such a developed story and lore to it was something that I'd never been able to experience before, because obviously most RTS games tend to have a bit of a basic plot, and I think this kind of set the precedent by saying you can have plot in these games, you can have a deep story, and that he absolutely should do it, because honestly it makes the game a lot more memorable as a result.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is a game I'll be forgetting anytime soon.
That monstrosity is an abomination, I take it.
Yep, stitched together from the remains of probably about 5, 6, 7 corpses. Also
Jesus.
given a butcher's hook for good measure, and a meat cleaver.
And his guts are hanging out. Charming. Well, I've never played Warcraft, so I don't really have much to say, but it does look really entertaining, a lot funnier than I was expecting, so kudos to it for that. But this will not be the last RTS you see on NTom and Volk's Spot of PC. Let's see, we've done Command and Conquer. We've done Diablo 2. Actually, that was a roguelike, wasn't it?
That was a action hackers and slash thingy.
Okay.
Not really an RTS. So it's been this and Warcraft 3 now at this point, and I'm very adamant in trying to get StarCraft in there as well. I may even do StarCraft 2 just to show you a more recent Blizzard RTS to kind of sink your teeth into. And also Age of Empires, that's going to be a fun one to do.
Yeah, we got to rejig this game with something first, mate. Oh, well. That'll do it for this episode of NTom and Volk's Spot of PC. We shall see you guys next month for a couple more, and we hope you've enjoyed these two. Bye for now.